In the midst of World War II, the Allied forces were engaged in a fierce battle for the strategic town of Monte Cassino, Italy. The battle was a crucial turning point in the war, as it marked a significant shift in momentum in favor of the Allies. However, the outcome of the battle was far from certain, and it was the actions of a lone soldier, Private First Class Joseph J. Sertion, that would ultimately change the course of the battle. Sertion, a radio operator with the 34th Infantry Division, found himself isolated from his unit during a chaotic assault on the German-held monastery atop Monte Cassino. As the sun began to set on February 12, 1944, Sertion realized he was the only one left standing, surrounded by the bodies of his comrades and the eerie silence of a battlefield. With his radio still intact, Sertion knew he had to act quickly to call in reinforcements and provide crucial intelligence to the Allied command. He began to frantically scan the frequencies, desperate to establish contact with anyone who could hear him. The static-filled silence was oppressive, and Sertion's fingers moved swiftly over the radio dials, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, a faint voice crackled through the speakers, and Sertion's eyes lit up with hope. It was Lieutenant Colonel William E. Ekman, the commander of the 133rd Infantry Regiment, and he was calling out to any surviving members of the 34th Division. Sertion quickly responded, his voice laced with urgency, and Ekman's words were like a lifeline to the isolated soldier. The colonel ordered Sertion to provide a situation report, and the young radio operator quickly relayed the dire circumstances on the ground. Ekman listened intently, his mind racing with the implications of Sertion's words. The Germans were stronger than they had anticipated, and the Allied forces were in danger of being overrun. With this crucial information, Ekman made a split-second decision that would change the course of the battle. He ordered a battalion of tanks to be diverted to the beleaguered 34th Division, a move that would provide the necessary firepower to break through the German lines. As Sertion waited anxiously for the reinforcements to arrive, he continued to transmit vital information to Ekman, providing real-time updates on the German troop movements and weak points in their defenses. The tanks finally arrived, their cannons blazing as they tore through the German lines, and the tide of the battle began to shift in favor of the Allies. The outcome of the battle was far from certain, but one thing was clear: the actions of Private First Class Joseph J. Sertion had changed the course of the war. His bravery and quick thinking had provided the Allied command with the crucial intelligence they needed to adapt and overcome, and his legacy would live on as a testament to the power of individual action in the heat of battle. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Sertion's radio fell silent, its batteries drained from the countless transmissions he had sent out into the void. But the impact of his words would be felt for generations to come, a reminder of the enduring spirit of courage and sacrifice that defined the Allied victory in World War II. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the scarred landscape of Monte Cassino, and Sertion, exhausted but triumphant, knew that he had played a small part in shaping the course of history. His story would be remembered as a testament to the human spirit, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times, and a reminder that even in the most desperate of circumstances, one person can make a difference. The Battle of Monte Cassino would go down in history as a turning point in the war, and the actions of Private First Class Joseph J. Sertion would be forever etched in the annals of time, a shining example of the power of individual courage and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. As the last remnants of sunlight faded from the horizon, Sertion's thoughts turned to the long and treacherous night ahead. The German forces, though battered, were far from defeated, and the young radio operator knew that the enemy would not hesitate to launch a counterattack under the cover of darkness. With his radio still clutched in his hand, Sertion slowly rose to his feet, his eyes scanning the surrounding landscape for any sign of movement. The battlefield was eerily quiet, the only sound the distant rumble of artillery fire and the occasional burst of machine gun fire. Sertion knew that he had to find shelter, and fast, if he was to survive the night and continue to provide vital intelligence to the Allied command. He spotted a nearby crater, partially concealed by a tangle of rubble and debris, and made a swift dash for it. As he dove into the crater, Sertion felt a sense of relief wash over him, knowing that he had found a temporary haven from the dangers that lurked outside. But his respite was short-lived, as the sound of German voices carried on the wind, their words indistinguishable but their intent clear. Sertion peered out of the crater, his heart racing with anticipation, and saw a group of German soldiers moving cautiously through the ruins, their rifles at the ready. The young radio operator knew that he had to act quickly, and so he reached for his pistol, his hand closing around the grip with a sense of determination. But as he looked out at the approaching Germans, Sertion hesitated, his mind racing with the implications of his actions. He knew that if he was caught, the Germans would stop at nothing to extract every last piece of information from him, and the thought sent a shiver down his spine. Sertion's eyes darted back and forth, searching for an escape route, and that was when he saw it, a narrow opening between two nearby buildings, just large enough for a man to squeeze through. Without hesitation, Sertion made a break for the opening, his pistol clutched in his hand and his radio slung over his shoulder. He squeezed through the narrow gap, his heart pounding in his chest, and found himself in a narrow alleyway, the walls towering above him like sentinels. The German voices were louder now, and Sertion knew that he had to keep moving if he was to avoid capture. He took off down the alleyway, his feet pounding the dusty ground, and his eyes fixed on the exit at the far end. As he emerged from the alleyway, Sertion found himself in a maze of ruined streets, the buildings reduced to rubble and the air thick with the acrid smell of smoke and dust. He knew that he had to find a way back to his own lines, but the landscape was unfamiliar, and the Germans could be lurking around every corner. Sertion's radio, still clutched in his hand, crackled to life, and the voice of Lieutenant Colonel Ekman cut through the static, his words a lifeline in the darkness. "Sertion, this is Ekman. We've received your last transmission, and we're moving a team to extract you. Hold tight, and we'll get you out of there." Sertion's heart leapt with hope, and he responded quickly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Roger that, sir. I'm moving through the ruins, trying to find a way back. But the Germans are closing in, and I don't have much time." Ekman's voice was calm and reassuring, but Sertion could sense the urgency beneath his words. "We're on our way, Sertion. Just keep moving, and we'll get you out. We can't afford to lose you now." Sertion nodded, though he knew Ekman couldn't see him, and took off down the street, his eyes scanning the ruins for any sign of the extraction team. The night was dark and treacherous, but with Ekman's words ringing in his ears, Sertion felt a sense of hope that he hadn't felt in hours. He knew that he still had a long way to go, but for the first time since the battle began, he felt like he might just make it out alive. As he turned a corner, Sertion saw a flash of light in the distance, and his heart leapt with excitement. It was the extraction team, and they were closing in fast. But as he took another step forward, Sertion's foot caught on a loose rock, and he stumbled, his pistol flying from his hand. The sound of German voices grew louder, and Sertion knew that he was running out of time. He scrambled to his feet, his eyes scanning the ground for his pistol, and that was when he saw it, a German soldier, emerging from the shadows, his rifle raised and ready to fire.